Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. Nottingham Forest 0, Manchester United 1. Yes, Mark Robbins with the winner for Sir Alex Ferguson's men to keep Fergie in his job. I mean, it felt a bit like that, didn't it? It felt like a big win. Joining me as always is Mr. Joe Smith. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Manchester United obviously going through to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup where we face Liverpool at home. We'll get to that in a minute. First of all, let's talk about tonight's game because I'm going to be honest with you, Joe. Yeah. It wasn't exactly a great advert even for beautiful football. No. It wasn't one of those games where you go, do you know what? Do you know what I'm going to do when I get home? I'm going to watch that again. I'm going to go back and rewatch it. I'm going to rewatch that. That was absolutely top draw attacking football. It was a bit scrappy. There was lots of mistakes. It could have gone either way at one point, but then in that second half in particular, United began to come into it more. And you pointed out, you were bang on with like 20 minutes to go. You said, it's been all United recently. Forest, the legs look like they've gone a bit. They're looking leggy. They don't look quite at it. And United were getting a little bit more confident, a little bit more direct. There seemed to be a little bit more method to the madness that we'd seen in the first hour where it was just sort of hoofing and trying Hollywood balls that weren't coming off and diving into things and missing them. And then we had the free kick and the header from Casemiro. Again, as you pointed out, it was the Carabao Cup zone. Casemiro steps up, gets his goal, got man of the match as well. I mean, it was funny because when we were talking about who should be man of the match, there wasn't anyone that stood out where you go, oh, if it's not Casemiro, then who is it? It just feels like one of those games where we needed a win. Yeah, that was the thing. Get a win, stay in the cup, give yourself that opportunity to play Liverpool at Old Trafford and keep Erik ten Hag in a job. And we did it. Yeah, it was a crucial win. And it's sometimes the cup, the performances are just look and feel different to league performances. And that's not just under Ten Hag. You see it with all teams all the time. Things look a bit different when it comes to the cup because both teams are trying for the full 90 minutes because goal difference doesn't matter. So you might as well keep going for it because even if you lose, the worst case scenario is you lost by one more trying. So the dynamic of a cup match is sort of by definition different to a league game. So the fact that some of the play looked a bit scrappy, maybe some of that can go down to obviously the personnel as well, which we'll talk about a bit more. But I just think it felt like a cup game where there's big lulls in play. Both teams, on one hand, like I said before, you'll fight to the 90th minute because you might as well. But on the other hand, you don't want to go all out too soon because if you're 2-0 down, it's done. Or, maybe not with United, but people don't want to lose those leads early on. So I think the game was quite cagey because of that. And then you ended up with two teams sort of scared to do much. And we looked timid. We looked a little bit nervous. And some of the quality, in all honesty, was shocking first half, especially. United's passing wasn't great. I thought Amrabat had a poor half, a much better second half from him. I thought McTominay was sort of, as we've always seen from McTominay, he does some things where you go, Jesus Christ, who was that? And then some things you go, Jesus Christ, who was that?
Yeah, it was a very Scott McTominay performance, wasn't it?
Yeah.
His bottom end was terrible, and his... Go on.
No, go on.
I thought you were going to go pause.
This
I thought you were going to say pause.
This is like a Google review.
His bottom end was terrible, pause. But his top end was very good.
Speak for yourself. But yeah, so it was very odd. Amrabat, like I said, had a strange game. Dalot looked very good in certain times, and then other times was just playing them on like over and over again for no reason. Lindelof, it looked sort of like a mishmash team that were coming together to be all right.
You've nailed it, right? Because it was one of those games where if this was a league game, I think Erik ten Hag would have thought, a point's all right, I'll settle for that. I can have that. I'm not going to, at 0-0, I can live with it. But because it's one of those where not just do you want to get the win, you don't want to go to extra time when you've got a trip to the Etihad on the horizon. So he was a little bit more proactive with some of his subs. They made sense to me, what he was doing. And I thought bringing on Diallo for Antony was a good substitution. I know you point out, Diallo didn't do a lot, but I felt he gave you a little bit of energy and just fresh legs coming on and just sort of mix it up a little bit. And the showing, right, Wayne Rooney on the Beeb, the showing Wayne Rooney's overhead kick against City. And I hope they're going to show Scott McTominay's overhead kick against Forest tonight.
They didn't compare the two.
To compare the two. But yeah, I felt like he got it right. It's a bit difficult to go. He got his tactics spot on, but he had to mix it up. Missing so many key players. Missing Rasmus Højlund. Missing, obviously, Sandro Martinez. Missing Harry Maguire. Missing Luke Shaw. Missing Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I mean, all those players, or at least four of them start for Manchester United. I know there's obviously Mason Mount and others injured as well, but he had to shuffle his pack again, and it worked. And it did work against the Nottingham Forest team that we said before the game started, and we can't I don't want to change my tune now we've won. We're a good team. You look at their team, you go, he's an handful, he's dangerous, he can cause you problems. Even on the bench, you thought, hang on a minute, that's a player that if he comes on, you've got to be wary of him. And they had opportunities. Origi had a chance early on. Awione had a chance. But they didn't really have any sitters. No. They didn't have one where you go, he's got to score. It was like shots from like 10 yards out, shots from outside the area.
That's what we do though, isn't it?
Yeah, shots that were relatively comfortable for Andre Onana, which some of that is poor shooting and others was because he was so from such distance. But yeah, I think you've got to give Erik Ten Hag credit. He got his win. I mean, it doesn't mean that that's it now. His job's secure forever. But I do think it gives him a fighting chance. All eyes now obviously turn to the game at the Etihad because it's another must-win game. Or not a must-win game because I think it's a game where don't get battered. Don't get hammered. If you get humiliated in the Etihad, I think that could be another nail in the coffin for him. But if you can just walk away from there with a bit of pride, you might still give yourself a chance. And also, you know full well on the horizon now, you've got another big game coming up where if you win that one, if you beat Liverpool in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup at Old Trafford, you might even be giving yourself a lifeline regardless of what happens in the league. Maybe. I'm not saying that's a definite. What are the chat in the comments saying?
Yeah, Glenn F says Antony played well today. Should get some credit for it. There's a couple of people talking about Antony. I think the biggest criticism you could have of Antony tonight was he didn't do anything fantastic. But I do think he did a few decent things and didn't really have a stinker. We've seen some really poor performances from him recently. Yeah. This wasn't one of them.
Do you feel that might be a little bit of a reminder that he has still something to offer? Because let's not forget, he started almost every game he was fit for last season. Yeah. In a season where we finished third and won a trophy. Yeah. Now, I've been one of his biggest critics. I'm not saying he's great. I don't think he's by any stretch of imagination. But have we been a bit too rash to say he offers absolutely nothing whatsoever? Yeah, apologies for that. I don't know what happened. I think the fact that we were giving Antony a bit of praise broke the internet. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think there's any argument that Antony, after a good 70 minutes or an okay 70 minutes against Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup is suddenly the player that we thought 80 million would get us. But it's like he can offer something in certain games. Yeah. I think that was the sort of reminder because it feels a little bit like, yes, we've overpaid. Yes, he's not good enough in my opinion, but also he's become like a bit of the bogeyman. It's like he's the reason for all our problems. Yeah. Like he's the reason Erik Ten Hag's no good. He's the reason we're failing since Fergie retired. He's the reason we're wasting all this money. He's become symbolic of everything when he's not. It's not all about Antony, is it? He's just one player who's not good enough.
Yeah, he's obviously not great, is he?
No.
And he's having a bad time, and he's got stuff going on off the pitch that we don't know how much of it's his fault and how much of it isn't, just because we don't know the ins and outs of exactly what's happened. Exactly. But what we do know is it's a very disruptive situation for him to be in, and whether that's playing any role or not, he's much worse this season than he was last season. He wasn't brilliant last season, but I at least saw a player last season where I thought, I can see at your best how you could be a decent player. I can see what you would bring. Whereas this season, you struggle to even see where a good version of him would come from. So the fact that he's had a game today where he wasn't great, but he was okay, is a step in the right direction. Like you said, a FA Cup game against Forest isn't, the game where you cement your legacy as a Man United player, especially when you just had a 5 out of 10 performance. But it's better than we have seen from him recently. We'll talk about Liverpool. Just before that, who was it, by the way, who was choking Bruno? Who had his hand around Bruno's throat?
Is it Felipe?
Felipe. That's a fucking red card.
I know.
Why is that not a red?
Because he went like that as well. If you look, forgive me.
Yeah.
He's like that. Can we have his single? Like that. Like that. Do you get it? That. Like that. R.I.P. Joe Smith.
Hey. What's happened? What a goal!
No, like It is. You're right.
He like proper squeezes his throat.
I think
though.
with Casemiro, there was a bit more of that, and that one, Will Hughes, it was a bit more like, come here. It was a bit more like that, and then a little bit of that, but not right up there, which is obviously a red. It's not even a thing that it's not, and yet they looked at it and went, nah, allow it.
I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it. He's literally just choking him. Of course you can't do that. What are you talking about? Of course you can't.
Bruno missed the trick, man. Do you ever do that? I do it with me, misses all the time. We go, just get off me.
Yeah,
just get off me.
Push it in more.
Get off me. Get off me. What are you doing? You're fucking killing me. Like, I should have done that.
How does your missus handle that?
She just carries on. I had a joke on you,
kids,
dickhead.
kick him. Kick him in the
in front
fucking
of the
bollocks.
kids. And the kids take her side. It's disgusting. But yeah, he should have done that. I mean, it was annoying, but the fact it was in the 98th minute sort of calmed my anger a little bit, because had that been a little bit earlier when the game was 0-0, I would have been fuming. And people moan at me when I moan on socials, because I've already done it. I've already pointed out. But it keeps happening with United. It does, this double standard all the fucking time. I'm sick of it. Like, we've seen it so many times this season and last season. Casemiro getting red cards, other players aren't getting the red cards for this. Literally, the same or even worse challenges aren't being punished by a red card. We saw it with the Romero handball. We've seen it with countless penalties we should have been given or weren't given. There was the one where, was it where Garnacho got picked up? There was that one.
Was that Arsenal?
I can't know. It was at Old Trafford. There was one where he literally gets lifted. There was the one where Delo got a red card for 2 yellow cards instantly. That we never see that. Players kick off all the time, and we never see that given. So it's just this double standard that annoys me, because let's have it right. If we're playing Liverpool in the quarterfinals and you get something like that, there's going to be a meltdown like you've never seen before. You just want it to be fair. Now, I'll be honest with you. At the time when I saw that Casemiro on, I didn't think it was a red card. But if you do give that as a red card, then you've got to give the one tonight as a red card. They can't. The Casemiro one can't be a red and this one isn't.
No.
That makes zero fucking sense. So that's the sort of thing that just winds me up. I just want to see it on a level playing field. And let's not pretend, United get all decisions. That hasn't happened since 1997.
Yeah.
So let's just fucking knock that one dead.
I've got a few quotes, but before that, I also want to say I thought Onana was good today.
Yeah, he was.
He had a handful of shots at him, nothing too difficult, but he just dealt with every single one. Played well a couple of times, a couple of dummies going past defenders. Just a no mistake, good, solid performance. Did everything that was asked of him. And I feel like people are very quick to jump on Onana when the ball goes in, or someone puts the ball right in the corner and he doesn't dive for it because he's wrong-footed or whatever, which happens to all goalkeepers. And yet when he has a solid, does everything right performance, people don't say anything. I thought, it wasn't amazing. He didn't have to do a lot. But what he did have to do, he handled very well and did some things that, skinning a striker and having that composure. Not every keeper does that. And I thought he looked very good tonight. We've got a few quotes from Ten Hag. He said, we are consistent. Oh, dear. I read that.
Well, why does he have to spoil it all?
I don't know. We only lost once in 2024. It's not easy when we have to shuffle the whole back line and the playing players in different positions. He said, fantastic games coming up. This team, what they showed today, that's great. They have to show it every game. I've seen it in the last couple of months. Not on Saturday. We have found the way to win. He also said, every win is important. We'll take it 24 hours and then we move on. He said, we had chances, but we allowed them to create some chances. We should avoid that. And then he said that Casemiro is very good at timing the ball. He's a very clever player. He's done that a couple of times in his career. It was a perfect ball from Bruno and a perfect execution from Casemiro.
Yeah, no, fair play to him, because at one point, like you were saying, and I agree with you, that maybe even think about taking Casemiro off because he looks a bit knackered. But then obviously he's got that little bit of quality, pops up with an important goal and helps us see the game out as well. He made a couple of good challenges towards the end as well. And Bruno kept going. Again, he does that thing that he always does in like the 93rd minute. He ran the half the length of the pitch to make a big challenge as well. And you need that from your senior players. Just seeing games out has been a massive issue for Manchester United this season. Conceding straight after we've scored and things like that. And if Forest had got an equaliser, you'd have fancied them to go on and win it, at their ground. They'd have been buzzing, sort of a lifeline and all the rest of it. But thankfully, Manchester United were able to sit out, and there's that carrot, man. That is a big carrot for me, like the chance of playing Liverpool in the quarterfinals at Old Trafford. If it was at Anfield, I wouldn't want it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I'd be fuck that, no chance, because we'll get battered again. But I fancy us at Old Trafford because I'm deluded, whatever you want to say.
Hopefully we'll have a couple of players back as well by then. Like I think we might have Mason Mount back. We should have Højlund back as well. I know we don't have Shaw or Martinez, but I think Hoyland in particular, they said 2 or 3 weeks, didn't they? And that was a week ago, and the game's not for 2 weeks, so it'll be touch and go. But if we can get Hoyland back, that'll be absolutely massive as well. I think, let me just get it. There you go.
Oh yeah, there's a little link in the chat as well. I'm doing the February Keep You Uppy Challenge for Cancer Research UK. 1 day left because it's a leap year this year, so I've got 1 day left of it. Almost bust through my target of I think it was 150 quid, but I've got like up to nearly 500 quid, so I get to 500 quid, thank you. So it's for Cancer Research UK, it's for a good cause. There's a link in the chat. Just quickly, if you can donate anything, it all helps. Has this game made you think differently about anything going into the derby? Any players, any tactics, anything at all? Or is it, no, nothing's changed?
I think we have to try and play counter-attacking football.
Yeah.
Some of the passing in the first half in particular against a pretty mediocre Nottingham Forest was shambolic.
No, I agree.
I wouldn't say it's made me more scared, but it certainly made me think we can't try and impose ourselves really at all in that game. I know that sounds embarrassing and pathetic, especially when
it sounds realistic to me, bro.
But we can't. We just need to sit back, soak up pressure, and hope that Garnacho and Rashford and Bruno's passing over the top can sort of win us the game or keep us in the game. Slightly embarrassing, but some of the passing time.
If we get a result because it's counter-attacking football, I will be absolutely buzzing. I will not complain at all. Yeah. And I think you're right. If we go toe-to-toe with Manchester City on Sunday, it's going to be a massacre. Obviously against us. Joe, love that. Where can people find you?
Joe Smith 93, Instagram and Twitter.
Go and check out Sloppy Joe's podcast as well. Very, very funny podcast. Don't forget that link that's in the chat for Cancer Research UK if you can help out. That's been Joe Smith. I've been Jay Moy. This has been a live review. We're going to have Andy Tate and Stephen Houghton coming up shortly. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching.